then couldn't read anything because I'd go to the library and pick up books, and then I would remember the ending. So my darling husband Jolly was like, "Go read LitRPG and progression fantasy and books online that are web novels because they did not exist yesterday, and they weren't in English yesterday. So I can guarantee you, wife, you have not read this book." So then I spent 10, 15 years reading, 10 years reading lit RPG and progression fantasy and online web novels and Royal Road. And um, so I
That's
decided, yeah. But I read Otome, which is the romance lit
oh
RPG from Japan
oh
and Korea.
oh.
And I read manga, which is all of it. And so my genre in Western culture, I'm like I think like Haylock has romance in his books, and Flossindune
Hmm.
has romance in his books, and Casual actually like got married in his books. These are spoilers. Um, so
Well, his character did, yes.
yes, yeah. Casual himself did not get married in his own books. So we all have a bit of romance, and maybe that's a
Yes.
part of the cozy life. Is that um, it's just celebrating all things that are loving and wonderful and heartwarming, and yeah. So
I
I'm
did not know that about you with the pizza construction. That actually that sounded like you made it up for a second. I was like, oh no, actually, like that's something that
no.
happened.
Up until I got married to Jolly, my friends joked that I was a Disney princess character because every year from the time I was conceived, so before I was in a life-threatening accident every year. Um, at one point, I burned off all the flesh in my upper body with boiling oil. Then my face grew back. Um, I've skated out on the Rockies in the winds in a snowstorm and didn't go over the edge. Uh, Yes, I've drowned. They had to be resuscitated. My hair lit on fire at a Ren fair. Um, yeah.
That is
Piece of
wild.
construction. I've been in 8 car accidents from pretty much every part of the car except for the driver's seat. I was never in the driver's seat. I was hit by a bus.
Well, this
But
certainly isn't cozy.
yes,
No, no, no. Like,
so
I'm like, I'm both horrified and also kind of like, I'm just like astonished at your determination to finally get isekai. But I mean, like, in
yeah,
the end,
right.
you
Like
found a good
these things.
husband here, and you settled down. So that's also cool. Uh, I guess. I did, but yeah, that's wow.
Yeah. But I have not had a life-threatening accident after I married Jolly. So like the year I married Jolly was the year of my head injury. So I got my head injury. I married Jolly. Nothing else. But
That is.
my daughter has had a life-threatening accident
Oh my
every
God,
year since
Mystic.
she was. So I'm like, oh no, what do I do? And
No,
it's not like
do not give away this curse. But like, okay, so the fact that like Jolly married you and then all the accidents stopped is kind of ominous. So I'm just saying, just saying. But anyway, we should probably move on to Haylock. Um, so Haylock, what about you? Like, how did Cozy find you? I think I remember something like similar to Flossin.
Yeah. So Cozy definitely found me repeatedly. Reading has always been an escape, like a form of escape for me. Um, you know, for as long as I can remember. I think Beware of Chicken was the first thing I really read that gave me the feeling of cozy. Like before I knew what it was, I was like this just feels this is like so nice to read. You know, like it's not like it's interesting still. Like how is it still interesting? And it doesn't seem to have the usual hooks that it doesn't have all the fights and the gore and the whatever that usually hook me. So that sort of like I guess planted a seed for later, and then it found me again. Obviously, when I wrote Heretical Fishing, not a lot of thought went into it. Like not a lot of planning went into it. It was, I mean, it'd been churning in my head for a while, for like 9 months while I was writing this other story, and I was like pushing it away. Like, no, we don't need to write about fishing. Stop. Like, stay away. Yeah. Then I sort of went through. We don't need to get into it, but something very difficult, sort of like the hardest thing I ever went through. And I just needed something nice. I just needed to write something nice. I just need to write like the most wholesome thing I can. And we'll just see what happens. I wrote it with like under the write-a-thon as well, same as Flossindune. Yeah, the 2023 one in March. And yeah, I've been writing it ever since. Yeah. So Cozy found me and stayed this time.
Awesome. I think casual out of all of us, or all the people who write cozy, I tried and I kind of failed. But out of all of us, I think you have like the most interesting origin writing story when it comes to cozy. Why did you get into it? Why did you get into it for a second?
So I got extremely sick, and I was really not feeling the greatest. I thought I was going to die for a little bit there, but that's besides the point. And then one day I found a writing prompt that just said, "The cultivator fucks off and becomes a farmer." And I thought, you know what? That's a pretty good idea. I was sick, I felt like crap, so I wanted to write something kind of like nice and something that I wanted to read. And yeah, originally it was actually supposed to be like kind of a smut novel, which is the funny part. And originally there was absolutely no intention of like really publishing it. It was just going to be on forums. So I started writing Boar of Chicken, realized I couldn't write smut, and just went all in on the kind of cozy aspect of it unintentionally. And then a bunch of people said I should publish on Royal Road, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So for everyone who doesn't know, Beware of Chicken, I think, is still the most rated, most followed story on Royal Road by like a significant margin. So, thanks. It was awesome. All right, cool. Well, can we move to the next question? We've had a lot of interruptions here, so let's hope this one works actually. And I hope we're still live. So if you're in chat, just like write something, we'll see it. Yes, we're still live. Thank you for the cat, Haylock. That really helped. So
Anytime.
I'm kind of interested in there's romance in cozy, but it doesn't necessarily follow the romance structure because for those of you who don't know, like there's a very I don't want to call it formulaic, but a very systematic approach to writing romance that works for a lot of people. And yet, I feel as though reading cozy doesn't really necessarily follow these well plot points, and yet there's always still romance that also really works. This time, I would like to start with Haylock and ask you, kind of, hey, why do you think this works, and how do you make it work?
Yeah, so it's definitely, I think in LitRPG cozy, it's definitely different. The romance, yeah, it sort of doesn't follow a lot of the time the same structure. You have some books where it still sort of leads to a climax at the, no pun intended, a climax at the end of the book where, you know, the characters finally come together and sort of, you know, share a kiss or get married. I think there's a fair few there's still cozy romances that do follow it. I think in our case, or I suppose I can only talk for Boar of Chicken and Heretical Fishing in that it's like the romance is very important, but it's basically just part of the found family. It's just like the really intense found family, someone that is obviously, I mean, it's like integral to the human experience, right? For most people anyway. So I think so it sort of just focuses more on that and the little moments in life rather than having the romance always be the point of tension. Yeah.
Okay. Kind of, and this is an open topic now. Like, anyone else want to jump in?
So, with Beware of Chicken, the romance was actually completely predicated on the fact that that's not what you do in Xianxia. In Xianxia, you normally have, like, a million love interests, and the guy goes and, like, doinks a different girl in every city, and either that or it takes, like, 50 books for it to come to fruition. And I was just like, this is happening in the first book, and it's happening right now.
Yeah,
And so
like all of those Jade beauties. Yeah, okay, I got it. Yeah.
It's just basically, see all that, just do the opposite of all that, and I think it'll work out fine.
Yeah, I think in cozy,
That's so funny.
That lack of tension is what makes the romance. Because in a lot of romance stories, you'll get like love triangles. Maybe she's gonna go with this guy instead of that guy. But in cozy, you go into it, you think, yeah, this is a romance where it's gonna be straightforward and it's gonna be cute.
Yes.
and that's what I believe is the main difference between like a romance book and a cozy romance.
Yeah. I think cozy in general is like, I think it can be described really as like the absence of anxiety, right? It's kind of like
Good
you're
vibes.
writing the exact opposite of that. Like you always kind of know everything is going to end well. So interesting. Okay. Annie, I saw your question. I'm going to ask that in a minute. But first off, Mystic, do you also want to like jump in because you mentioned that you've been to the panel hosted by Providing 8 and that you learned some. Well, no, she doesn't. Okay. Well, this is okay for the rest of us.
She doesn't want to talk.
This is okay. No, I'm done talking to you, Max. Okay, well, that's okay.
I popped back in and out. Yeah. So, do I want to talk about romance? Do I want to talk about?
A little bit. Also, remember you need to like raise your microphone a little bit, and also you're still echoing a lot because you left and you came back, and now your echo cancellation is off.
Yeah. How's this?
Very, very good, but I can still hear myself talk through the feedback from your headphones. So how about this? You just keep talking, and I shut up.
Oh, good idea.
Cozy,
love
you
Max.
guys, cozy.
I love you. Yeah, so how my romance worked is that it was definitely somewhat predicated on standard romance tropes. But what I ended up doing and how I really wanted to make it cozy is I would find all of the tropes that made me rage quit books and just set those up and do what I think. This is what I was thinking when I was listening to Haylock talk, is that a lot of the romance in LitRPG, because it's not written to be like straight up romance, is that you want more realistic but still heartwarming and loving romances. You don't want people just like following tropes until the end or following the formula. It's more like, hey, I moved to a seaside town and I meet someone who's nice and I'm slowly like getting to know them, and there's no beats that you have to follow. It's just two people being friends or family or having romance together. And so what I did is I made more realistic things happen. So there's one moment in my book where the main characters, the male main character is about to confess his feelings. And there's this big thing, and it's like the stress of his life is like, how do I confess to this person? It's very small stress. It's mostly like, am I ready? Is it time? Like, should I say something? I am ready. I am going to say this. And he walks over, and he's in the middle of doing it, and someone arrives, and then it's like, knock, 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 Your Majesty, we have a guest visitor in the other room. Like, fully interrupting the confession scene, which happens so often, and I'm so upset at it. And what ends up happening is the person who's interrupted is the main female character's best friend, has like come here with news, important news to the plot. And she walks in and she sees them framed in this like beautiful setting, like talking to each other. And she goes, oh no, that's fine. You guys look like you're having a really important conversation. I can literally wait 5 minutes. Like I'll be okay. And then she leaves and they finish their conversation. Like they actually complete the thing. And so what I ended up doing for romance is just setting up all of these classic stereotypes and tropes and then walking right through them. Just like, no thank you. This will be fine. We can just be people and it'll be great. So that was my way I do.
Awesome. Okay. I mean, we've kind of talked a little bit about this topic for a while now. We have like 13 minutes left before the next panel. So I kind of want to ask about, well, two kind of questions, right? So many of you out there are writers, but if you're not, if you're just a reader and you're thinking, hey, this doesn't look so bad, I can try this too, then go ahead and give it a try. Like, writing is fun. It's a very nice hobby. And yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll see you at this panel next year or the year after. But how about that then? what is something that you would give aspiring cozy writers to carry with them on their journeys? That was almost smooth. Haylock, why don't you start?
Sorry, it took me a second to realize how to unmute my microphone there. Okay, advice for people trying to write cozy. My general advice for anyone considering writing is like, it's such a cop out, but just write. Like truly, it's, you know, the worst case scenario, you create some art. Damn, you know. I don't know. It's obviously I have a bias towards it, but writing to me is, you know, such a wonderful thing. If you can get past the scary bit of starting, get past the need to be perfect initially, and be kind to yourself. If you make, you know, some little whoopsies, some things that didn't turn out as cozy as you'd hoped, that's okay. Learn the lesson, try again, keep going. Yeah, but I just love like as many people as possible to write. I wanna read more cozy stories, so I wanna see what you make.
I mean, I've heard that one of the like biggest cozy stories out there actually has like a really big fighting arc in the current book. Hey, casual. So, what about you?
We can
My
all make
advice
mistakes.
is simply write what you want to read, because people can tell when something's feeling authentic.
Yeah,
So,
that's a very good point.
like, if you're writing, so you can write for yourself, and I think maybe starting writing for yourself is probably the best thing, because then you can see what you like and like how things work, and just post it somewhere, get some feedback, and go from there.
If that's what you want, right? I mean, like, not everyone has to, like, that's also a thing. Some people just can just write for their own drawer. That's fine. Like it's not as though anyone who writes like needs to get better. You
Yeah.
can just share it with your friends. You can write it for a friend. Write it for a loved one. Like, write a cute little romance story for your loved one. I've done it before, and it actually worked out pretty well. Flossin, how about you?
So the biggest advice I have is, I think, blanket advice for writing is that perfection is the enemy in your first draft. You can always come back and edit the words later, but if you're looking to write like a scene where you feel like you're wrapped in a blanket, there's a blizzard outside, you got hot cocoa, the fire's running, and you write it and you read it again, and the hot cocoa's missing, the blanket's missing, let it sit, move on, come back. Because you can always add those vibes that you think you're missing. And like Madix said earlier, it's like, oh, you actually like what you wrote? I do, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah. Mystic, how about you? What's your best advice? You muted? You were good.
Okay, so my best advice for writing cozy fantasy is that there's like a basic couple of rules that I always follow, which is one, when in doubt, stop and write describe something cozy. It's like, when in doubt, just take a second. If you feel like things are getting a little exciting, talk about the tea, talk about the clothing, talk about the scenery, like just set the scene a little bit more to like bring it back to focus. Two, agency is really important. I wrote a kidnapping scene in my book, which you wouldn't think is cozy. And in the first draft, it was not cozy. It was necessary and it was helpful to the plot, but it wasn't cozy because this person gets their agency taken away and then they have to get it back, which is the classic don't do it. Mind control, body control, and the loss of agency is a huge no-no in the community. But how I got around this and made it more cozy is I had the main character retain agency. So when she gets kidnapped, she's been trying to find this person's hideout. She's been trying to find proof, like legitimate proof that this person is a bad person. So the second he kidnaps her, she's like, oh my gosh, this is great. They're literally escorting me to the bad guy's hideout. Like, this is awesome. I don't like. Oh no, yeah. Don't take me. Don't kidnap me. This help.
No,
Because
just yeah.
yeah, because she can figure a way to escape. There is some tension, like, oh, is her plan going to work? But she has a plan, and that agency is the having a plan. Um,
And then also like being able to execute it, right? So
Exactly,
obviously
yeah.
you wouldn't like any sort of like um, any sort of I can still hear myself. Can you mute yourself? Thank you. Any sort of like a kind of a kidnapping scene would probably look like the Monty Python scene with a Spanish Inquisition. Like put her on the comfy chair, right? That sort of stuff. That's fun. Like you can always kind of make it a little bit funny, add some humor in there, which also really helps, I think. But yeah, and that one thing that you said actually really reminds me of something that Alex is writing here, and he's writing, I found writing to be easy. Editing, well, that's the hard part. Of course, that's from a full pantser who now has to perform surgery, which is 100% true. I am, well, somewhat self-deprecatingly known as the guy who rewrites his novels. A lot of people don't do that. I can fully recommend just taking your entire written novel, if you pantsed it, looking at it, putting it somewhere else, and writing it again, because now you know what you're doing. I can really recommend that. But yeah, Mystic, you want to say something?
Oh, my mic's turned on. Yeah, I think I just accidentally hit that. I will say that cozy, humorous that was my third concept. So you touched on it perfectly. Was that as long as you can make it funny, it's cozy.
That's what I do. I touch on things perfectly. I said it with a straight face. Okay, last but not least, I think we have like 5 minutes left, so why don't we do some shout-outs? Because y'all have some really cool, cozy stuff. You can always pay it forward, push the ball to the other court, or whatever metaphor you want to use. And this is also something I really like about the writing community in prog fantasy and LitRPG. Everyone subscribes to the fact that the rising tide lifts all boats. So how about it? Flossin, why don't you start and tell us a bit, like, who would you want to shout out?
Oh, well, first off, I would like to invite anybody to read Beware of Chicken, Heretical Fishing, and I Ran Away from Evil. I Ran Away to Evil, excuse me. They have each... I've read each of these books, and they have all been fantastic. But as far as outside of this, Cultivating Chai on Royal Road has been one of my favorites. It's all about the tea. It's all about cultivating the tea. But it's the second cultivation story that I've actually managed to jump into outside. Well, I guess third one because of Heretical Fishing as well. Sorry, it has the broken system in the background, so I think, oh yeah, it's a LitRPG, but there is a lot of cultivation in it.
They're literally called cultivators, so yeah.
Yeah. But this one is on Royal Road, so it's not on Amazon yet, but I recommend giving it a shot.
You mean people should give it a try?
Yes. Yes,
Good,
they should.
very good. Very good. Awesome. Yeah, Mystic, you knew what was going to happen when you invited me to this panel. Yeah? Okay, good. Very good. Haylock, how about you? What are your shout-outs?
My shout-outs, I'd like to return the shout-out to Career Quest. I've been bouncing between a few things lately, mainly because I'm having to curate a cozy thing, and that's so far out of the weeds. Never mind, forget that. Career Quest, wonderful. I finally got to read I Ran Away to Evil, wonderful. Beware of Chicken, always wonderful, always was, always will be. Chai was lovely too. I have one more, which is sort of getting more popular lately. Demon World Boba Shop. I started reading. It's a bit on my list. I only got around to it today on the train to where I am now. I'm so sleep deprived. I've been at a con for 3 days. Like, I'm exhausted, and the fact my eyes could remain on my phone to read that the entire train trip, I think speaks to its quality alone. I haven't read very far into it, but I can tell the writing's gorgeous, and I'm going to enjoy reading the rest of it tomorrow after I slept.
Boba Tea is excellent.
Oh,
Like,
also,
it's excellent.
yeah, I also recently read The House Witch, which doesn't need the shout out, but it's fantastic.
Okay. Casual. Hit us with the shout outs.
All right. Oh, 1 second. Am I still muted? No, I'm not. Okay. So my shoutouts are actually, well, one's not exactly cozy fantasy. It's called Virtuous Sons. It's kind of like Greek Xianxia, and they had some kind of interesting stuff for that. The other one is on Railroad is a Trailer Trash. I've been quite enjoying that one.
And so, I mean, like, obviously, we also have to like shout out the most cozy story of all, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Yes, or if you want really cozy stuff, you can also read Kaiju Battlefield Surgeon. No, I'm joking. Those are not cozy. Do not read those.
Yeah,
cozy
when you
mind.
really.
What were you gonna say, Haylock?
Oh no, I was going to dive deeper down the Kaiju Battlefield joke, but don't worry about it. It's probably best we
Okay,
don't.
okay. Well, yeah, I can. I think I can
it's
also.
not cozy.
If you're looking to like some a little bit cozy stuff, hey, I mean, like we can shout out Host, we can shout out Merchant Crab. That's a thing we can do. So I think Merchant Crab is something. If
We
you
can shout out Merchant Crab.
we can shout out Merchant Crab, yes. If you have read Heretical Fishing and you're craving more crustaceans, then Merchant Crab definitely is something that you should also try out. That's my shout out. So, Mystic, how about you?